doing this again, y'all.
So exciting.
I'm much excited.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so much excited. So we're back again doing live stuff. Our entire backlog of everything that we did before we went on our little hiatus and everything that we recorded during our hiatus is now 100% available, perfectly free on YouTube. It is youtube.com/@theblindgm. You can find everything there. It's in a playlist. It plays in order, so just click on the playlist, click on autoplay, and strap in because this game gets wild, y'all. This
It
game
does.
gets wild. All right,
We're
Brian,
a
why don't
little
you
cray cray.
take it away?
All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to the further adventures of our intrepid crew, the Berezaya Argia. When last we left off, Zaya had gathered everybody together to inform them of her decision to try the process of potentially sort of splitting up her essence into maybe some multiple hosts. However, that choice, and admittedly, there that choice caused a bit of an upset with some of the group, and before things could be sort of explained or resolved, the group kind of went their separate ways to process the information and in various manners. Barca went on a rage walkabout, would probably be the best way to describe it.
Everything exploded. It exploded.
But yeah, the whole, suffice it to say, the whole thing was kind of chaotic. Ultimately, for the majority of the party ultimately kind of came back to the Berezaya Argia proper. But Barca had ultimately left a letter stating that Barca was going to while everybody in Zaya was beginning the process of finding the candidates or whatever, that Barca was going to go save Tia, gather his other family members, his pups, as it were, and to go rescue Tia from Arganessen. And so, how we kind of begin all of this is, actually, I don't really know how we're going to begin all of this, to be quite frank. I would say with where we left off, depending on what people want to do, whether they want to still have kind of channeling the energy and frustrations of our previous session when everything became chaos, if you want to have discussions the same day or want to take a little bit of time to cool down. But admittedly, where I imagine this is headed, unless you guys decide you're doing something different, is potentially there may even be a little bit of downtime involved as this whole process kind of gets started. But it really kind of depends on what do you players want to immediately do. Oh, and sorry, as a quick housekeeping thing, so Barca is not with us today. Darren's still has some work-related things but eventually Barca will be joining us again, unfortunately just not for this particular session. And then as far as a little teaser for the future, I don't know exactly when this is going down when I'm saying this, but relatively soon, by the time you get around to watching this, or
Oh, we're
probably
live.
already has happened.
We're live.
Fuller live, my guy.
You're
Well, if you're starting from the backlog and working your way up, but eventually,
That's fair.
some of us enjoy chaos and just go right in the middle.
Right.
There
So
you go.
eventually, Darren is willing to run the rescue of Tia, and the with the I forget which one did we call it now? The Fast and the Furious.
Furriest. Furriest.
Fast
Yeah.
and the furriest.
But
Furry.
or Barca's Bastards, depending how you look at it. But
I think that's the
regardless,
subtitle.
is gonna
Fast
be
and the
running-
Furious, Barca's Bastards. It's fine.
There you go. But it's going to be running that in a future session, which I'm also very excited for, because then I can play a little bit. And I think, just from what little I've seen of some of the characters, it's going to be chaos. Chaos that I don't have to try to herd and control. So
Anarchy that you run.
right. So sorry, little off tangent there, but coming back to the fold. So reaching out to the players here, whom we currently have with us, is there, I guess, any immediate further discussions or things that you wanted to address right away, or to perhaps give everybody a little bit of time to unpack some of the emotions and think words that were said? I mean, admittedly, Rhiannon and Gavin were having a joint with Adanashti, so for the most part, other than, you know, the stress building up a little bit and searching for Barca before you got back to the... You've been fairly mellow, all things considered, but...
Rhiannon and Gavin were out looking for Barca.
Yeah, so was Ember. Yeah, when the last we left off was the reading of the Barca letter when we got back.
Right, when everybody got back.
And I remember Ember screaming.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you do?
I go to my room. Yeah. I go to my room. I storm to my room. Actually, I call out for my 3 goblins, and I go to my room.
Okay.
Well, that went well.
I go to Barca's room.
Okay. You see inside Barca's room, like, as far as the furniture has been all smashed to pieces, and you see,
I
and you do
fixed it.
see even the kind of the hatch and sort of tendril-esque rope ladder, for lack of a better term, that Zaya had.
I thought I fixed all that.
I guess I don't remember. Did you
Mhm.
try to magically repair it then? Or?
Yeah, I was doing prestidigitation and mending.
Okay.
Because I made sure that his room was put back the way it was after he did all that.
Okay. So I'll say you're probably still sort of in the process of some of that. So there's some things that have definitely looked like they've been repaired, but you do see signs that there's still plenty of that something destructive happened in the room, so to speak.
Yeah, I'll just like curl up on his bed and just kind of like she doesn't cry. But just sort of that like staring into the middle distance. She just misses her best friend.
I would say that the 3 goblins that sort of snuck out with Barca originally, I think it was Tolvira and Ethan and
Where's the
them?
list?
And Nina. You do see at one point they kind of like peek out from kind of behind the, like you hear the door creak open just a little bit and you see them kind of peek out from behind it just to take a look at you, Rhiannon.
I'll just kind of like open my arms toward them.
And they immediately hop up and
Yeah, we'll just have a gobble cuddle puddle.
I mean that's usually what they do with Barca, so yeah, they
Mhm.
pretty I mean, you notice they're slightly sheepish, although they and they don't really say anything.
She's not really talking either, so
Fair. And what about Gavin and Amaya? What are you two doing?
Amaya's probably staying kind of up on the top deck, letting people kind of go off and process, being in a kind of obvious central location if people want to come to her to process things, and probably mentally talking with Zaya a bit and trying to, suss out and make absolutely sure that this is what Zaya wanted, and that's why she decided, and not just she decided to do this because of other reasons. That's kind of Amaya's last hang up, is he wants to be sure that Amaya, or that Zaya, is going down the path she wants to, not that she feels that she needs to or would be best.
So eventually Zaya does kind of form back up next to you in her dryad form. Especially when you ask, are you absolutely certain you want to do this? And
yeah, Amaya is basically waiting to hear Zaya actually say the words, "This is what I want." Because she knows it's real easy to go, sure. It's real easy to go, okay. It's real easy to go, yeah. So much harder to go, I want this, if you don't want it.
she just kind of grabs your hand and says, I thought so. I mean, before everything exploded, I felt ready. I don't know, Mom. I understand where everybody's coming from, or at least I thought I did. I just after Dream Reaper, that thing was possessing me. I've never been more scared. Even when Dracoskull knocked me out of the sky, and attacked us, like I was scared then, but nothing like being held against my will, watching this horrible being use what felt like my flesh and blood to hurt my family, and be sitting there absolutely unable to do anything about it. It's like pounding my fists against a wall, screaming, and no one heard it. Like it felt so alone. I felt so alone. But more than that, it felt it felt like a violation. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, I don't know what the future holds, and I want to spend as much time of it with my family as I can. But I can't. As much as you all would fight and die for me, I would do the very same for all of you. And I'm not saying that as to say that's my reasoning why I'm doing it, but I mean it. But I guess if there's a possibility to, part of me is choosing this because it's because I'm scared. I guess for my life and for your lives. And this is a way of at least potentially making that a little bit safer.
It could. That is true. I feel I should point out there is also a possibility that you'll end up trapped inside someone's body, unable to affect or change what you are seeing yourself do. It may be Dream Reaper all over again, but no escape this time.
Is that how you feel with your connection with the quarry spirit you were with?
Well,
from our conversations, it's never sounded like that.
Well, for me, it is a little bit different than it was for the very first Kalashtar. For me, a piece of this quarry was always with me from the very beginning. I couldn't say one way or the other whether I am entirely human consciousness or entirely quarry or part human, part quarry conscious. I don't know. It's just always been there. I see memories. I get information. That I know comes from the quarry, but I don't know if that's actually that part of the quarry being partly in control, or if it's just a fragment silently watching from within whatever I do. I don't think any of us will ever truly know what the case is. But for you, you are still one, for lack of a better term, unsplit Ori going into the body of, well, a person. We don't really know exactly how that's going to work for you. Will your personality immediately merge with theirs and be half and half? Will you be in control? Will they be in control sometimes? We don't know.
I mean, some of that we won't know until the attempt is made, right?
None of it we will. And I'm not trying to say that that's what will happen or what is more likely. But I want you to know what the possible outcomes are.
Well,
Because if you're doing it out of a fear of what Dream Reaper did to you, you're taking a pretty big gamble on potentially consigning yourself to that forever.
she doesn't. She just kind of doesn't really say anything else. Just kind of. You definitely get a sense that a lot's kind of running through her mind at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But
Just kind of like pulls her into kind of a half hug and like arm around their shoulder. Like if they're just sitting down somewhere on the top deck, she'll just be like sitting right next to her. If what you want is to spend as much time with us as possible, then I recommend doing that. Everything else be damned.
And so the two of you sit on the deck. I'd say, Rhiannon, every time you sort of get settled, a few more goblins kind of show up and climb on top of the pile. Pretty much all of them, but the Embers trio, who's with primarily taking care of Ember at that point, but. And there are a few times it's a little uncomfortable because, goblins have knobby knees and elbows, but
short but weirdly lanky.
Right, but you managed to sort of get them in a position that's not necessarily causing any pain or towards you, and when you've got like 6 or 7 goblins all kind of dogpiled on top of you, it is surprisingly comfortable and kind of warm. Like you can kind of understand where Bark is coming from now with the whole goblin pile. Like, but yeah, the little buggers probably generate a good amount of body heat.
Excellent. What about Gavin?
What about Gavin? What's going on with Gavin?
That's the question, isn't it? So Gavin is exceptionally good at masking his emotions. He's like +9 deception. Like he's probably got a wicked poker face. But I think in this moment he's actually really struggling to do that. And I
Okay.
think because of various connections that he has, that when his emotions, particularly powerful ones like this, are close to the surface, they do manifest in his eyes starting to go dark, like the sclera starts to darken around the edges, spreading out from the iris, and the markings on his face that show up during his necrotic, what is it, necrotic shroud or whatever it is. Um,
I would say too, is just a slight interjection to addendum to that.
yeah,
Every once in a while, and it's very faint, almost like one of those things like you're not 100% certain you actually heard it or not. But every once in a while, you do hear kind of the clinking of chains, that sort of metallic, almost as if maybe they were clinking together, like being blown around in a breeze or something. You know, very faint, very subtle. Not like chains whacking across everything and whatever,
right.
but just kind of like if several chains were hanging down together and there's a little bit of a breeze, almost like a little bit more of like a wind chime sort of audio associated with, I guess, with that sort of movement in terms of trying to sort of describe it, if that makes sense.
And I think up until this point, Gavin had done that thing that so many people do, where like if it's just kind of barely on the periphery of their consciousness, they just pretend like it's not happening. Um, but I think with everything that's going on and as close as his emotions are to the surface at this point, I think he sort of internally goes, "That's a thing, and I'm going to have to deal with that, but not right this second." Uh, and I think he actually goes and finds Nikali.
Okay. Nikali's easy to find. He's on the deck, and you see he is working on, because effectively he's making another kind of winged cloak of some kind.
I think I just walk over to the work table that he's using, and I just start handing him the tools that he needs
Okay.
when he needs it. Effectively, like I know aid another is not really a thing when you're creating an
Yeah,
arcane,
yeah.
magic item, but like effectively doing that.
I get you. Okay. And yeah, you see, this cloak is going to be a little bit different than, at least from what you can see. Instead of kind of the bigger kind of brown rock uh, feathers that he had integrated into the cloak, that was the one that Narashti ultimately took with her. This one seems to have a bit smaller feathers, and they are all like a deep black in color, very raven or crow-esque.
After several solid minutes of silence, as he's just handing him tools and whatever. Nikali, do you have kids?
I do not. At least, I do not that I know of.
Neither do I, that I know of, at least biologically speaking, and I never considered myself the parent type.
Why not?
I had such a great father. He did everything a father could do and more, and I wasn't even his blood. And that was the first time that I realized that family doesn't have to be who you're related to. But he was so good at being a dad. And I am so much not like him that I just always assumed that I would be a terrible parent. And admittedly, given some of the advice that I've dispensed to Barca, that theory has borne out a little bit.
Barca. Barca is a very interesting being in that he has the innocence of a child, but the anger of an adult. Anger of several adults. Actually, pretty much the anger of a mob, one could even argue.
That is not an
It's
argument that I feel I would win. So
it's an interesting dichotomy.
here's where I'm hung up and frustrated. Prior to Zaya making her choice, every last one of us told her that we wanted her to make the decision for herself. That she should make this choice, that it was her choice to make, and no matter what she decided, we would back her play. And the minute she decided something that people didn't like, they have proven through their actions that they're not okay with it, and that there doesn't feel like they want to back her play. And so I'm real confused, because all this seems to be doing is proving to Zaya that we don't trust her to make her own decisions. Whether that's their intent or not, that's what's being seen. And that's where I'm lost.
Well, taking people's... Let's try to look at it from a different view, maybe. Taking people's personal opinions outside of it. Because we all have our own biases. Zaya has only existed in her current form for a handful of months, even though it seems like years and years. And it is easy to see her in some way, shape, or form as an infant, or at least a child, just because that's what we're used to, right? I mean, even granted, us elves have a bit longer lifespans, but still, an infant elf is an infant elf. I mean, it takes a while for that child to grow enough to make choices, whether good or bad, and then a while more to grow up and to learn how to learn from making choices, both good and bad. Sometimes it's easy to overlook that while there's definitely an innocence about her, there are a lot of similarities in some cases to being a child, I suppose. Or maybe, I don't know, adolescent, I guess. I forget all the different little stages, but that she may or may not be going through I guess you could say, an emotional growth spurt, or um, I don't know. I'm probably screwing up my words on this, but it's easy to kind of see her under that lens, if that makes sense.
Then perhaps the smarter thing to do would have been, rather than laying this entire decision on her shoulders, was to open with protracted and nuanced conversation about it, rather than say one thing and immediately do another.
It might not be a bad route to go.
Because all we have right now is an empty shit full of hurt feelings.
Well, if there's anything I've learned in the past few months being with my family, is that arguments and discussions do happen, some of which can be quite heated. But at the end of the day, we fall back to the biggest motivator of all of it, which is that we love each other. And while we may have disagreements, ultimately, it's because of that love that we'll come back and continue to have discussions, passionate discussions. And arguments.
He hands Nikali the left-handed spanner.
Okay.
I don't think he's... Gavin's done. I think he's going to sit and kind of sit with that for a while, but he's going to keep helping Nikali.
That's fair. And I would say, like, in general with Nikali, like, I don't know if he's necessarily... I'd necessarily say that he's shy, but although granted, if he's among a lot of people that he doesn't know, then he's most definitely shy. But he's always been kind of the sort of a bit of the strong silent type in terms of
a little more reserved.
A little more reserved, but always willing to lend an ear and whatnot, not definitely not inhospitable. Now, Kaladin is another thing. Well, he's basically a soccer hooligan who's been in a cult. So,
see, I know you based him on The Witcher, but now all I can think of is Vinnie Jones as Kaladin.
I mean, yeah, kinda. I mean, you get the sense that we'll say that Kaladin is mellowed in so much as to quit being a relative jerk to people in terms of, like, being extremely vulgar. But definitely drowns his sorrows in alcoholic beverages from time to time, and is definitely dealing with their own demons. And while would probably never say it to anyone's face, is happy that you at least allow him to be on board the ship, so he's a part of a group, even though he doesn't want to be a part of the group because he's too fucking cool for that or whatever. But
Yeah.
That kind of deal.
I didn't realize Kaladin was an edgelord.
Right?
Drunken edgelord would be.
I mean, so an edgelord.
Drunken, vulgar edgelord, yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where he's an asshole to deflect from the fact that doesn't want to, is scared to get too close to people, that kind of thing. Good psychology. What can I say? And sure enough, as you're sitting there, Gavin, working with Nikali and working on the cloak, you do see Kaladin passed out with a semi-empty, like probably about a wine bottle with maybe about a quarter or third of the wine left in it. For a race that doesn't sleep, he sure does snore quite a bit. That's
Cool.
So I guess with that, we'll say the kind of the evening, draws to a close unless there's anything else anyone wants to do immediately. But I would say probably over the next, I'd say the next day. With everybody kind of, well, Zaya takes probably the next day just kind of contemplating things and maybe having some small chats here and there with people. But you definitely get a sense that there's a lot kind of on her mind as she's kind of processing things. Is there anything you guys want to do during that day? Or anything...
I want to go find Amaya.
Okay.
And
Easy
talk to
enough
her.
to do.
Amaya?
Yes.
How are you doing?
I think all things considered, I am doing about as well as can be expected. How are you?
Very emotionally raw, but I'll be okay. I hope I didn't upset you.
No. Nobody upset me. I have just been a bit preoccupied making sure that Zaya is deciding to do what she wants, not what she feels she needs to or is best.
I respect that.
Been hard to find the opportune moment to do that.
I can only imagine what's going on in her head right now.
As can I.
Do you think it's a bad idea? Truly.
I think they're all bad ideas, truthfully.
Fair.
I don't think a one of our options is good.
I don't
But
think we've had a good option since that ship crashed.
I see potential for wonderful things and the potential for living nightmares down all the paths. So,
Yeah.
since any one of them could be spectacular or a shit show, I wanted to make sure that she's going down the path that she wants to walk, so it's at least no regrets on that in the end.
Yeah. I thought... I know how concerned we are about the idea of Zaya being trapped in someone. And I guess I thought that if it was someone she knew, I'm not gonna, purposely keep her trapped or prisoner or anything like that. And I just thought that if that was what she wanted, that it's not like she and I don't know how to work together.
No, of course not.
And
I know you would never willingly trap her like that. But you don't even know if you'd be able to hear her, for lack of a better term, in your head.
it's true. I just I remember how tough it was sometimes. My mom and dad, as much as they love each other, they're two very different people. And they didn't always agree on what was best for me. Even though, of course, I knew that they loved me and that they wanted what was best for me. But I kind of imagine that Zaya feels right now like she has 5 or 6 different parents who all want the best for her, and nobody agrees on what that is. And in the end, what was best for me wasn't what either of my parents wanted. It was what I wanted. And even though my dad didn't like it in particular, he supported my decision. And I don't know. This is all just so much. It's so much, and it's I don't know. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I want to make sure that you understand that my intentions are good, even if you don't
Course.
disagree with, even if you disagree with my thought process. And I, of course, am worried about Zaya. And I don't know.
I apologize if I've come off as being particularly against any certain potential outcomes of the choice. My intent was never really to direct one way or the other or keep any particular outcome from happening. I just, like you said, the right choice was what you wanted.
Yeah.
And if you had decided instead to choose something you didn't want, that wouldn't have been the right choice.
No. But I also know that it doesn't feel good to make a choice and then to have people question it. And I worry that the way that we're all reacting, all of us, I'm not excluding myself from that. I worry that the way that we're reacting is sending the wrong message to Zaya. I don't know. I guess, and I'm not scared to talk to her, but I don't want her to feel. I don't want her to feel like we made Barca feel yesterday. Like we're chasing her down, or like we won't leave her be when she needs time. I don't want her to feel like that. And so I don't know, I guess you're her mom. And maybe when she comes to talk to you, because I'm sure she is talking to you, maybe just let her know that if she wants to talk with me, I'm here. I just don't want to push in if she needs space.
Of course. Next time I speak with her, absolutely remind her that your door is always open.
Thank you.
I'm sure
I
she
value
will.
our friendship, Amaya.
And I greatly value our friendship as well.
Sorry, I'm just having a rough day. That feels really silly to say to you.
We've all been having a good many rough days for quite a
Weeks,
while now.
months.
What is Rhiannon's passive perception?
Oh, her passive perception is not as good as her investigation. 17.
Okay. You do see depending on where you guys want to have this conversation, if you're okay with it, maybe having it on the deck somewhere.
I assume that that's where I found Amaya. She's usually up there.
So I mean,
That's
you're still out. It's kind of it's probably kind of like the weather right now in Minnesota is, at least around us, where it's kind of there's a bit of a wind. It's a little blustery. It's a little cold. You see this kind of darkened sleeve kind of pop out from behind you, holding 3 mugs of what looks to be some sort of warm tea. And you see Katari actually kind of pop out from behind you, like, and then kind of offers one to Maya, and then kind of offers one to you, and
I'll take it.
Thank you, sister.
then takes the 3rd cup and just kind of nods and just kind of actually kind of makes eye contact with you, Rhiannon, and just kind of nods, and then
I nod back.
And then proceeds to go over and chat with Nikali.
I still don't like your sister, but she's maybe not all bad.
Well, she was raised under our parents. That's going to leave a mark on anybody.
You turned out all right.
Appreciate that.
And I'll just sip her tea.
Okay.
As will Amaya. Just kind of quietly enjoy the company.
Alrighty.
On day 2, I go find Ember.
Okay.
Sco, really? Now? Really? Off.
What?
Off. You have got to be kidding me.
What was that?
No.
Apparently you said something that set your Alexa off.
I sure did. Wow. All right.
Also,
those of
apologies
you-
to anybody who might be watching this that has an Alexa in the room that I just turned on. Twice now.
Twice now. That for the record, those of you watching, before we started going live, we had an incident also with our respective home assistants, and it was a whole ass thing, which is why I'm laughing right now. So I go find Ember.
Ember is in her room.
I will knock politely. I will knock, but I will follow up with, I come bearing weed or conversation. It is your choice which one you wish to take. I can also go the fuck away.
I open.
Wanda actually pulls on your sleeve, Ember, before you open and goes, "What's weed?"
Oh shit. a conversation for later. Um, I open the door. I go, no drugs.
Okay. Then can we talk?
Yeah, we can
And you see the
converse.
3 gobos who kind of sitting there like, it's here. Oh,
You guys can go. You can go.
okay. And
Don't worry.
You say they kind of hustle out. Gavin, you do see Wanda kind of pulls on your pants like for a moment, and then just kind of like and kind of goes then out to the door.
See, guys, what did I do?
They're just on high alert. That's all.
Emotions have been really high as he steps into the room and kind of closes the door behind him. And I'm not obviously an exception to this, but I think in my head, I've been unfair. And rather than sit there and be mad about it, I figured I'd come figure stuff out.
Okay.
And I think I've figured something out, and I just need you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. Your hesitations with Zaya, obviously coming from a place of love and respect, and like I know that. But I just this is because it's what they did to you, right?
Yes.
Stands there for a moment. I don't know that I ever really understood, nor do I think I ever could understand how badly that impacted you, how strongly that impacted you. And I realized looking back over past behaviors that I may have inadvertently been dismissive of that. And you are under no obligation to do so, but I do offer my apology for that.
I do appreciate that. And if this is what Zaya truly desires, I will do what I said that I was going to do. I am going to leave. I can't watch that. I can't. So I will probably go back to my band. I will support Zaya in every shape, way, or form I can, but this is how I can support her with. This is how I can support her.
respect, well, rather, if we do respect one person's good therapy session, y'all.
Yep.
If we respect one
Yep, we did.
person's boundaries and not another's, then we're not very good at being people. Well, good people. That is what you need to do. I need you to understand that I will be heartbroken. And this is not an emotional manipulation. This is me just telling you how I will feel. It'll hurt. But it's what you need to do to be all right. I will support you.
I won't be all right. No matter how this turns out, I won't be all right.
And there's a moment where Gavin's face betrays just a tiny little bit of the weight that he is carrying. Just briefly. When he responds with, I don't think any of us will. I would very much like to hug you if that's okay. And he wraps his arms around her.
She accepts it. I wish I could offer good advice, but I can't.
No, you and I are both banned from giving advice.
Yes. But in regards to helping Zaya, I have nothing but bad news on the road that she travels.
After a conversation with Nikali, I feel like we approached this decision-making process incorrectly.
I would agree. This is not how this... None of this. But unfortunately, we always seem to just jump off the cliff.
Maybe there's a lesson to be learned there.
I mean, we're practically gods.
Most of us
that.
developed wings and ways to actually make sure that, and none of us are dumb to turn into a goldfish or something.
Yeah, we developed wings for a reason, because that just ended poorly for somebody. I read a story about this druid that made a comment once, jumped off. It was
really
bad.
dumb. Really dumb.
Like I'm the game master. I'm supposed to be throwing you in the ringer, and even I'm going, why, Phoenix? Why? So just
What?
just
Sweetie, I love you, but you're a bad person. Love you.
Oh goodness. All right.
And that's I'm good with that scene kind of fading out there, but yeah.
Mm.
That works.
Oh, I don't get emotional in games. Fuck you. God damn it.
Made you cry.
I'm not crying. There's onion ninjas in my room.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Those onion ninjas, they're very pesky.
So many onion ninjas.
Yeah, I just, I have dog hair in my eyes from my girlfriend's house, so it's just, they're just watering a lot today. It's fine. Allergies.
I know we're a little early yet, but this might actually be a decent time for a quick break.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. I need more water.
Yes, I need
I
to
need more
hydrate. I'm leaking. Damn it.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll take a break, and should we try to be back in 10
2:30?
minutes, best we can?
2:30. That's about 7 minutes.
2:35.
2:35. Okay.
All right, but
I know. Actually,
We're-
2:35.
We're
yeah.
starting at 2:35 whether you're back or not. And that's a general
go.
you, not specifically at Phoenix.
I feel attacked.
You shouldn't feel attacked. That wasn't aimed at you. All right, we'll be back at 2:35, folks.
Not just to me, but also to incalculable numbers of tabletop role players across the globe. As such, we will be continuing to use the D&D 5e rules as a vehicle to convey the story that we are telling. This is not support, implicit or explicit, of actions taken by Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. However, until another system offers a level of accessibility equal to or greater than what D&D Beyond has to offer, it is unreasonable to ask our disabled gamers to switch to something that would be prohibitively difficult for them to access. For us, story has always been more important than the system. The homebrew setting of Gravendale is, and always has been, system neutral, surviving through several different editions and iterations of game systems. In essence, we're only using 5e as a tool, not as an endorsement of the wrongs a corporation attempted to inflict upon the TTRPG community. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you here for many, many future stories.
Oh hey, question and stitchable moment for the day, Minnesota edition. Stitch this, quoting your favorite movie line in your best or worst Minnesotan accent. Hello, you may not know me. I'm the Blind GM, and I am legally blind. In the wake of all of the discussions around the OGL and the suggestion of canceling your D&D Beyond subscription because it is the best and fastest way to show Wizards of the Coast that we are displeased with the changes that they are making, it's important for me to point something out. D&D Beyond and other things like that are sometimes the only access that certain disabled people have to the TTRPG space. And from my own experience, D&D Beyond is the most accessible and the most comprehensive, but that isn't the point of this video. In the advent of all of these gaming companies coming up with their own systems, with their own way of doing things, I would like to have a discussion about taking that accessibility out from behind a paywall. So, if you support your fellow disabled gamers, tag your favorite RPG publishers in the comments, and let's have this conversation. So much like the rest of TikTok, I have had the Wednesday Addams version of Bloody Mary playing in my head nonstop, whether I like it or not, for weeks. You know, I'll dance, dance, dance with my hands, that one. So the trick is that when I heard the song initially, I misheard the lyrics. So instead of I'll dance, dance, dance with my hands, hands, hands above my head, 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 this is what I heard. I'll dance, dance, dance with my hands, hands, hands down my pants, 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 like Jesus said. Adds a whole nother layer to the song that probably should not be contextualized on TikTok. Challenge and stitchable moment for the day. Boop the snoot. Boop the snoot.
Do you ever get a little bit tired of life? Like you're not really happy but you don't wanna die. Like you're hanging by a thread but you gotta survive. Yeah, you gotta survive. So we're gonna do Elf on the Shelf from my car because I forgot to film last night. And I have to do the blind GM because he flooded my freaking notifications. So last year we had a thief among us. Geek girl Alyssa.
Lissa was sneaking in and changing names on the naughty list last year. And we can't have that again. The audacity, because there was quite a few good kids that got coal. Lissa! So as you come to these double doors, they open up to blue tile floors, but they're pressure. Yeah, they're pressure plates. And you see the blind GM's elf in front of you. Sits crisscross applesauce on a pedestal with a candy cane 3 times the size of him. That's barbed. Floor is lava, and if you want to get to that list, you have to go through him. And I do not like your chances. Hope you liked it. Who's next?
I've never seen a hot goth girl covered in tattoos look good in a sundress.
Whilst pondering how to proceed with this particular purpose, a preponderance of possibilities came to prominence. This ultimately and unnaturally led to an avalanche of unnecessary alliteration. In the end, I decided it only took one single note to woo a beautiful goth girl in a sundress. That's a G. Do you want to know why I tell stories? There's an anecdote that illustrates my point nicely. Back in the early 2000s, there was a movie called Stranger Than Fiction, starring Will Ferrell, Emma Thompson, and Maggie Gyllenhaal. The premise of the movie is that Will Ferrell was playing this kind of normal, middle-aged white dude who suddenly could hear a fussy British woman narrating his life. Nobody else could hear it, just him. He comes to find out that she's an actual British author writing his story. I remember really liking the movie despite a lifelong hatred of Will Ferrell, but I haven't seen it since then, so it may not hold up. The point is when I saw that movie, it was the first time in my life that I realized that not everybody has a voice in their head narrating the shit that they do. And that voice gets real judgy at times. And the only way to shut it up is to tell stories. And that fundamentally is the reason why I'm a writer and a DM and a storyteller. No context for you. So, Superman is up in the watchtower, right? Full Superman regalia, answers the phone. And it's this middle-aged Karen who is complaining that her neighbor has parked 2 inches too close to her curb. And he is sitting there in his Kansas farm boy way, trying to firstly understand why she's so angry, and secondly, calm her down. And he's sitting there just going, ma'am, this is the justice, ma'am, excuse me, like, who do you think my manager is? And then Bruce is off to the side going, give me the phone. Just give me the phone. Just give me the phone. Just give me the phone. Finally just takes the phone from Superman and goes, public relations. Meanwhile, sitting there keeping her on the phone long enough to determine which of the Bat family to send after her. Nightwing, Red Hood, or fucking Damian Wayne.
To all the folks within the sound of my voice, let's address the pear-shaped ampersand in the room. The situation with the OGL 1.0A has many of us feeling some kind of way. I have been an outspoken proponent of the outcry against any significant changes, and I remain so now. After some intense discussions with fellow D&D players, including the close circle of friends I frequently game with, it has become evident that in terms of universal accessibility, D&D Beyond is the best resource available to us at this time. Accessibility is incredibly important, not just to me, but also to incalculable numbers of tabletop role players across the globe. As such, we will be continuing to use the D&D 5e rules as a vehicle to convey the story that we are telling. This is not support, implicit or explicit, of actions taken by Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. However, until another system offers a level of accessibility equal to or greater than what D&D Beyond has to offer, it is unreasonable to ask our disabled gamers to switch to something that would be prohibitively difficult for them to access. For us, story has always been more important than the system. The homebrew setting of Gravendale is, and always has been, system neutral, surviving through several different editions and iterations of game systems. In essence, we're only using 5e as a tool, not as an endorsement of the wrongs a corporation attempted to inflict upon the TTRPG community. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you here for many, many future stories.
Oh hey, question and stitchable moment for the day, Minnesota edition. Stitch this, quoting your favorite movie line in your best or worst Minnesotan accent. Hello, you may not know me. I'm the Blind GM, and I am legally blind. In the wake of all of the discussions around the OGL and the suggestion of canceling your D&D Beyond subscription because it is the best and fastest way to show Wizards of the Coast that we are displeased with the changes that they are making, it's important for me to point something out. D&D Beyond and other things like that are sometimes the only access that certain disabled people have to the TTRPG space. And from my own experience, D&D Beyond is the most accessible and the most comprehensive, but that isn't the point of this video. In the advent of all of these gaming companies coming up with their own systems, with their own way of doing things, I would like to have a discussion about taking that accessibility out from behind a paywall. So, if you support your fellow disabled gamers, tag your favorite RPG publishers in the comments, and let's have this conversation. So much like the rest of TikTok, I have had the Wednesday Addams version of Bloody Mary playing in my head nonstop, whether I like it or not, for weeks. You know, I'll dance, dance, dance with my hands, that one. So the trick is that when I heard the song initially, I misheard the lyrics. So instead of I'll dance, dance, dance with my hands, hands, hands above my head, 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 this is what I heard. I'll dance, dance, dance with my hands, hands, hands down my pants, 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 like Jesus said. Adds a whole nother layer to the song that probably should not be contextualized on TikTok. Challenge and stitchable moment for the day. Boop the snoot. Boop the snoot.
Do you ever get a little bit tired of life? Like you're not really happy but you don't wanna die. Like you're hanging by a thread but you gotta survive. Yeah, you gotta survive.
So we're gonna do Elf on the Shelf from my car because I forgot to film last night. And I have to do the blind GM because he flooded my freaking notifications. So last year we had a thief among us. Geek girl Lissa. Lissa was sneaking in and changing names on the naughty list last year. And we can't have that again. The audacity, because there was quite a few good kids that got coal. Lissa! So as you come to these double doors, they open up to blue tile floors, but they're pressure. Yeah, they're pressure plates. And you see the blind GM's elf in front of you. Sits crisscross applesauce on a pedestal with a candy cane 3 times the size of him that's barbed. Floor is lava, and if you want to get to that list, you have to go through him. And I do not like your chances. Hope you liked it. Who's next?
I've never seen a hot goth girl covered in tattoos look good in a sundress.
Whilst pondering how to proceed with this particular purpose, a preponderance of possibilities came to prominence. This ultimately and unnaturally led to an avalanche of unnecessary alliteration. In the end, I decided it only took one single note to woo a beautiful goth girl in a sundress. And that's a G. Do you want to know why I tell stories? There's an anecdote that illustrates my point now.
Hi, everybody. We're back.
Woo! Howdy, howdy.
That's you, Brian. Take it away.
Right. I have to create words and put them in order of things to make a semblance of sense. Why? Anyway, as we return, I would say probably a little bit later, maybe even that day, Zaya does kind of call for another kind of group meeting. And I know we've had some heated discussions, some passionate, as Macaulay would say, discussions. And I guess some of my questions towards the rest of you would be how if I didn't, whether or not I guess I go through with this process that Adonashti and them have potentially devised. I guess the question would be to all of you is what are our next steps? Like what are we thinking?
I actually have a question in that regard. Because our next steps vastly depend on the decisions that are made. I had an interesting conversation with Nikali yesterday, and he pointed out that, not to be reductive, because this is not my intent or even my goal, but realistically, you are a few months old, and we've been parents about as long as you've been alive. Which is usually the case, but when your child is walking and talking like immediately out of the womb, it adds a whole other sort of wrinkle to learning and navigating and all of that fun stuff. This decision was presuming there was a time constraint. The choice to divide yourself amongst the various, individuals of the Kalashtar was presuming there is a time constraint on between now and the next time we run into the Inspired, and who the fuck knows what that's going to look like. They've tried a bunch of stuff and just generally been dickheads about the whole thing. Well, what if there wasn't a time constraint? What if we put a pin in this discussion for now, researched the hell out of whatever it is that they intend to do, and then make the decision when we are better informed about what it will look like? Now, that may be a fruitless endeavor because clearly they don't know, and they've already talked about the fact that they need to do research in order to even make it happen in the first place. So what if we didn't give a hard commitment? Because we're going to have to take the time to do the research anyway. So what if we didn't give a hard and fast commitment to what you intended to do until we know for sure that it's going to work?
Just so we can have these uncomfortable conversations all over again?
I don't think it's fair to have put the entire onus of this decision-making process on Zaya. And I think that's our fault. Because like I said, we've been parents for all of 4 months.
Respectfully, I disagree with you, and I will point out that Zaya is not a human child, and therefore any measurement of her maturity cannot be based upon the idea of a human child and the rate at which they grow and learn. I appreciate the fact that you're trying to not put a time constraint on this, but the fact of the matter is that the last time we went up against them, we lost. The last time we faced the Inspired, we lost. We lost Zaya, we lost Ember. We are up against a time constraint, whether you whether we wish to or not, and the what ifs are nice, but in this case, I don't think that's sensible. Why don't we hear what Zaya has to say before we start taking the conversation down a different road?
She asked the question. I was giving some variety of response.
And so I kind of, I do hear where you're both coming from on that. I guess taking the decision out of it for a moment. I mean, and I guess just looking ahead, what is our next, I guess, steps? Decision or no? Because if I continue to choose to go with it after that happens, there will need to be a next step, and if I decide at the end that I no longer want to do it, well, then we still kind of need to know. I guess I would like to know if there are obviously I look to all of you for guidance.
I guess I'm curious about what Gavin means by depending on your decision that our next steps are vastly different. I was under the assumption that we were going after that we were trying to find other seed pods down in Zendrick, since we know that the Inspired are looking for them.
I'm operating under the assumption that if we go with the plan that the Kalashtar have come up with, that we don't have, we don't have a ship.
We don't know that.
We don't, but we are, unfortunately, very much in the realm of what if at this point. We don't know anything.
Sadly, we don't really know much of the what ifs, even if we know what decision ultimately ends up being made. So I think, for right now, broad strokes, where we go from here. Me, personally, whatever decision Zaya makes, I will be where Zaya is. Whether that is the ship, the Enclave, somewhere else entirely. That is my next step and where I will be. With Zaya, whatever that means.
Then, how about this for now? I mean, they still have to gather candidates, and they have no idea if this is going to work anyway, right?
That's my understanding.
So and we need to learn more about it, as she gestures towards Gavin. I realize I'm just gesturing to my screen, but the gestures towards Gavin. And like you said, if we can learn more about it, it'll give me a better, I guess, educated choice.
What are you proposing, honey?
Well, for now, unless we have something else, I mean, we could try going chasing after Barca, although I kind of understand why. I mean, Barca logic, I kind of understand why Barca decided to do what he did. Kind of. But maybe we've, admittedly, with only a couple of few breaks, we've been kind of running roughshod. all over, and maybe now is the time to take a collective breather and learn more, I guess. If and maybe have Ananashi at least start the process of finding those candidates, seeing if we can find people that would potentially mesh well. I mean, maybe it comes down to it, I don't like any of them. And at present company excluded, of course. But it's going to take them time to travel, considering you can't teleport or whatever, at least from what I was told about the shroud and whatnot. So, I mean, it would take them time to get here, and, you know, we could all question them, interview them, do whatever we need to do, right? Would that work for everybody?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Mom, you keep asking me that.
I do.
At this moment, I want to see where this path leads.
Okay.
But sorry, it does make me frustrated from time to time, Mom, when you keep asking if I want this or not, because I don't know 100%. But do you know 100% every choice you make?
No, I don't know 100% every choice that I make. But
Don't get me wrong, I get it that you all want to protect me, and I feel the same towards all of you. And while I'm not 100% certain, because like we have discussed, there's plenty of variables we don't know.
yes.
I guess I like Gavin's idea of at least trying to learn more and seeing if it kind of works out. That seems very smart, and I know I have all of you smarty pants to help me figure that out.
All I really want is for you to be confident enough in the choice to be able to say, this is what I want. Because if you are comfortable enough with the choice that you can say that in those words, you're probably not going to regret it later then.
Well then, I think for now, I'll tell Adonashti to get the process started.
Evan walks over to Zaya. May I hug you, sweetie?
Yes, please, and then proceeds to just
Big honkin' hug.
yeah.
Group hug, group hug. Poor thing.
Okay.
Amber, come hug with us.
I assumed Ember was hugging. Is Ember not hugging?
Okay. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
But she's there. Just on the outside.
Fair enough. Uh, so with that being said, the admittedly, we're actually going to have a little bit of downtime.
There is one additional thing.
Yeah. Okay.
After the group hug or whatever, Gavin, I think, makes eye contact with Rhiannon and like gives the subtle couple's hand signal for we need to have a conversation.
Fair.
And for this, he actually leaves the ship.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Rhiannon will go with him. What's going on?
Well, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I did feel a little attacked in that conversation. And I want to know if we're okay.
I was not attacking you, Gavin. I was pointing out that your argument was not logical.
This isn't a logical situation.
Maybe that's part of the problem.
And you gonna leave it there? Or are you gonna expound on that?
We've had a very hard few months. We're not the only ones that have had a hard few months. And while I very much want what is best for Zaya, this group is so focused on itself that we are losing the bigger picture. There is a war. Dragon-marked houses are being slaughtered. We're seeing all sorts of things coming from all over the place. Airships have been stolen in droves. And while, yes, we have done very critical work in the past few months, we are a small cog in the wheel of everything that is happening right now. It's not just about us and this ship and even Zaya. We are a family, and this family is so obsessed with itself. Are we going to let an entire people be at risk of dying because we don't want to make a sacrifice? What about our homes? What about our other families? What about the houses? What about House Tarkanan? Are we seriously going to just throw our hands up in the air and say that we're not concerned with what goes on because we're too busy trying to talk Zaya out of a decision or into a decision? I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because the people here who are not slouches in the military department or in the intelligence gathering department, these people who could be our allies, we are digging around with a decision. We have work to do. Whatever fate has in store for its bitches is not going to stop just because we're struggling with a single decision. And I get that your family is gone, and I get that Amaya doesn't speak with her family other than Katari, and I get that Ember doesn't speak with her family. I have a family. I have a family that is very much in danger right now. I have a house that I care about with people I care about. This is not my only family. And what about the hundreds and thousands of families who are going to lose people they love in this war if we sit back and do nothing? So yeah, I'm frustrated. Are you and I okay? I don't have any particular gripe with you, no. And I care about you very deeply. We are all being awfully selfish right now. And maybe Zaya and her fate are enough for most of you, but it's not enough of a picture for me. There's too much going on, and there's too much else at stake for me to focus only on Zaya. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I am sorry if I've hurt you. It's not my intent. I'm sorry that I made you feel attacked. That was not my intent either.
It is possible I phrased my proposal in a way that was not clear. But my idea, you know what? You know the idea. It doesn't fucking matter. You are my family. And I am worried about yours, your mom and your dad. And believe me, it's not lost on me that the world's on fire. What I wanted was a way to move forward, to gather as much knowledge, things that we needed to do anyway. If you want to go fight the world, I will go with you.
I don't need to fight the world, Gavin. I just need to make a difference. Leave the world better than I found it. We have a chance to do that. This quirky family of ours.
Yes, I see. I think you missed the emotional core of that particular statement. All of that, what you just said, and I will go with you.
I didn't miss that, my love.
We're good?
We're good.
Yeah. Let's go fix something.
Rhiannon kind of pats him on the butt. My dear, you have a habit of worrying so much about how you word things that your meaning becomes obfuscated. You might want to work on that.
It is so much easier when I'm lying to people.
Try it.
This whole fucking truth thing is real obnoxious.
Oh, I don't think you could lie to me if you tried, but if that's easier for you,
Challenge? I feel like that's a challenge.
that's not a challenge. Are you okay, by the way?
Not
Your
remotely.
your eyes are
Uh,
your eyes are a little, they're doing that thing.
There's a lot going on, and I don't know what it is. And because of everything else that's going on right now, I haven't really brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm terrified. Terrified.
Okay. Is it just the this and the face, or
I'm hearing
Uh,
things,
oh,
things that aren't
okay.
there.
Like
Chains in the wind.
chains in the wind? That's not. I can see why you're terrified. Hmm.
It's something that definitely needs to be addressed, and honestly, as we're researching this planar bullshit that we're gonna have to do for Zaya, I may sneak off and look into a little bit about my condition, but realistically, seeking this out, doing the things that we need to do, that I need to do to figure out what's going on with me, a lot of it can't be done here. And this is where I'm needed right now,
Mm-hmm.
so this is where I'm gonna be.
I get that.
But I promise I will tell you if it gets worse.
Your aunt, the one that we met before we went to your family's old estate.
The one that fundamentally disavowed any knowledge or inclusion of my entire
Mm-hmm.
existence. Yeah, that one.
That one. Uh, I take it that she was around when your father found you.
I mean, Dad's always kind of been a black sheep. I mean, she was alive, if that's what you mean.
Did your father have any other siblings?
Yeah, I don't. So, I feel like at this point we're kind of walking and talking.
Yeah.
Um, Dad, the whole the whole Pendergast family, um, was very concerned about legacy and very concerned about heirs. And since father was not inclined to procreate due to certain um, hastes, Dad was fully into guys. Um, then you can adopt, but
Can.
that's not what the family was interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, he had a number of siblings. She was the only one that I ever really communicated with on any meaningful level, and even that was still strained.
I'm wondering if there's perhaps any information about when he found you and brought you back that maybe.
I'm 90% sure all of that is locked up at Moorgrave.
That's the creepy undead house, right?
No, Moorgrave is a university in Shard.
Oh, Moorgrave University. Oh, I know that. Duh.
That's Dad was there working as an well, not an out. It was an archaeological thing for Moorgrave at the time when he found me, and they kept all of his notes. They might have been seized by the Brelish government. I don't honestly know what happened to that. I know the Dark Lanterns were real interested in his work after he brought me back.
That's your friend, right?
Friend is... Yes, that's my friend. Heavy air quotes.
Perhaps that's an avenue we should pursue when we're back on Corvair.
Maybe. I was never inclined to do that until things started getting weird.
Yeah, things have definitely gotten weird. I have a feeling they will only get weirder.
Damn it, Brian. Yeah, you're probably not wrong.
I'm
You see
usually
him,
not wrong.
he usually he visibly just kind of, and as he like breathes through it, you see like the sclera kind of slowly start to kind of return to normal. Maybe still faint signs of the markings that appear on his face, but still like you'd have to be looking for them.
Mm-hmm. Might
Seems
be
only
tough for you when I'm always right.
all right. The blank expression is out of character. That's Adam glaring at Phoenix.
I know.
Uh, uh,
I get to turn things around on you sometimes. Okay,
it's fair. It's fair.
that was
Uh,
purely for Adam's benefit.
I think Gavin's response is, "Yeah, it's a real bitch."
You're welcome.
Damn it. And scene.
Love you. Mean it.
Okay. So, word starts to get spread about the candidates and that sort of thing, and the good news is that at least in terms of getting the word out, there are ways that the Clashtar can communicate to sort of spread the word amongst the Adaran people and what have you. However, because one cannot teleport in Adar, or should not be able to do any sort of dimensional travel actually in Adar, they do have to kind of go through the normal channels of transportation, which usually means traveling through mountains and all the joys that entails. So there is indeed going to be some downtime. And actually, I realize some of what may or may not happen does kind of depend on really what you want to do in that downtime. But what I would like is I would like one of you to roll me a d10.
I will fall on that sword.
Oh, I was gonna offer to roll my new gay dice.
Roll the next time gaily.
I will
6.
roll the next time gaily.
You got a 6?
I got a 6.
Oh, I don't
Okay.
like it when he quietly notes things down.
Sometimes it's not bad.
I mean, you have to remind yourself he does everything purely old school.
He does
That
everything
is true.
analog.
Pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
Sometimes it's
Fair.
good, and sometimes it's the number of airships that he's throwing against you.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I multiply that by 100. No.
No.
Yes.
So
Yes, the reward. Yes. We're talking
11,
about the
I would
reward.
say about 11 days go by.
Okay.
So keep track that you have 11 days of downtime if you want to do things.
Oh.
That there is some time that passes. I guess during that downtime, is there anything specifically you would want to do?
Gavin wants to include himself as much as the Kalashtar will let him in the research process.
Absolutely. And truthfully, probably that probably amounts to spending some time with Adanashti. Um, they would, because they are a thought singer and can kind of connect with multiple people at the same time with their mind link. What they probably do is kind of link you in on the sort of mind link conversations that they have with various other wiser Kalashtar, different, whether they be psychics or more. You get a sense not many of them are very arcanely focused, but there are a lot of practical. However, a lot of them are very knowledgeable in psionics. Like, I mean, the Arcana skill out of character works regardless of what brand of magic sauce it is. But you do find, because I believe you have some training with Arcana, right?
100%. Yep.
That basically you're able to understand some of their concepts. They just kind of maybe there's a lot, or I should say, there are a lot of similarities in way things go. And in fact, a lot of it is just in a matter of how the tripping up is where a lot of things get categorized. Like, you know, for magic, you've got your schools of magic, whereas the psionics kind of leaning, and granted, I'm kind of leaning off of the old 3.5 system, but they do have their different sort of devotions that cover.
It's it's like the laws of physics, though. You can't change what they are. The concepts are all similar. They're just flavored differently based on the different schools of thought.
To some degree, yes, there are a lot of similarities. I mean, now there's admittedly some nuances and of how things are processed that can sometimes make it look like, oh, well, psionics could never do that, as opposed to, oh, well, magic could never do that. And it's like, but the more that you're having this conversation with Adanashi and with these other, I'll call them mystics for lack of a better term, because your brain is pretty decent at processing stuff and whatnot, and you're a smart cookie, realize that I guess you're able to kind of help find sort of the unintentional biased flaws in some of the thought processes, and vice versa, if that makes sense. So from like a very troubleshooting aspect, I would say, more than anything.
I am applying the scientific method to philosophy. Love it.
Right. It is kind of interesting in that their communications technology, for lack of a better term, it's interesting that you see. So Adanashi actually shows you, like, in their office or chambers, they actually have a wooden case that's got some interesting sort of beautiful kind of carved scroll work on it. It's all lacquered and has seen use, but is very loved and cared for. But inside there are these velvet, like the whole interior, at least on the bottom side, is all these kind of velvet lined pockets where there's these different crystals. Many of them are some are rounded smooth, or like a pebble in a stream, or almost kind of egg shaped. Some are more of your like hexagonal crystalline cut, like a quartz type crystal or what have you. But you realize that these crystals are somewhat similar to your sending stones, except the difference is in that and now you realize too, this is much like what Narashti had when Narashti mentioned that she was sending in reports to Adanashti or whatever. But basically these are not sending stones in the sense of like the 25 words and you're done. They're almost like a mind link amplifier that broadcasts to another crystal of the same thing. So basically, allowing you to extend the range of your Kalashtar's mind link, but only with whoever's possessing the other stone. And so the stones can be made into batches, usually chunks of the same crystal, in terms of their construction. So you get, so as far as the communication wise, it's very interesting because they do have these kind of group chats, for lack of a better term, where they're all kind of using the same sending stone. That being said, you do know that several of these mystics are actually traveling to this monastery, potentially with some applicants as well. But because they want to be there on site also to kind of help, as best they can to make this, however this process is going. As far as the good first kind of chunk of that journey is kind of working on getting your mind wrapped around kind of the thought processes and kind of translating arcane to psionic and vice versa through a lens of a culture that has literally been living with it for the last century or so, and that kind of deal. As far as for the rest of you, is there anything?
I do have some downtime stuff, but I'll just log it myself.
Yeah, unless it's as far as let me rephrase. If there's anything you want to do from a role-playing aspect, let's do it. If it's more of just like downtime activities, we can kind of note that and deal with that sort of off screen, just to kind of save time on things.
I will say, and I think Gavin would offer this, given some of Ember's obvious and valid hesitations, he will offer to be as transparent with her about the process as she is willing to hear.
Sure.
But if she says no, he'll leave it alone.
Gotcha. Okay. So unless anyone has anything specifically they want to sort of say or...
Question for Ember or for Lilith. Has Ember has told us sort of what happened, but not like what she remembers? Does she remember? God, this is an awful question. Does she remember what they did to her in detail?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. God, Ember's
So in that sense, and the way that I have it built in my backstory is
gotcha.
That she remembers it kind of like how Corey remembers memories in their dreams.
So Rhiannon would go to Ember. Do you have a second? I know I'm probably not your favorite person right now.
Quite frankly, nobody's my favorite person at this moment.
That's fair.
Add Cliff Bars to my grocery list.
Cliff Bars added to grocery.
I want to ask you some questions. Because I want to ask you some questions about what they did to you. Because This is gonna sound stupid, but I'm asking you to trust me. I want us to have enough knowledge that Gavin knows what to watch for in case they do. I'm not talking to you.
Oh
Sorry.
my god.
My
Don't
home
tell-
assistant.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
I didn't even say the word.
That's it.
So
We have to get
real
rid
quick,
of all of them.
just completely unrelated to, well, related to the home assistant thing. I went off mic so I could add something to my grocery list for my home assistant, and I kept calling the name, and it would not react. I can't get it to react for love or money when I need it to, but the minute I don't need it to, it's just like, yes, hi, what can I do for you? Fucking thing.
Somehow
Anyway,
we
I'm done.
reprogrammed it.
I love it.
I'm looking
Okay,
at
sorry.
Okay,
Go
sorry.
back.
Ooh,
Go-
sorry.
Go back. Go
Sorry
back.
for the home assistant interruption. Serious face. Okay. I want Gavin and you know, I am intending to help with the research as well. I want us to have an idea of what to keep an eye out for because I don't, if that is the road they're going down, that those same kinds of things would be done to Zaya. I want us to be able to flag it. And I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you.
Emma just lets out a big sigh.
I'm so sorry. And you can tell me to mind my own fucking business and
No.
I will not ever ask again. I just, if there is any way that we can try to make it any safer if she decides to go through with it, I want to be able to do that.
Emma sits down next to you on her bed. And I'm assuming this is like day. We'll give this probably 5, 6.
This is probably earlier than that.
Earlier than that, you're
Oh,
that
yeah.
impatient. Yeah, that's fair.
It's not that Rhiannon is impatient, but planning to help with the research, she doesn't want to let it linger for very long and potentially have them headed down a road that maybe we can cut off at the pass. This is not an impatience with Ember. This is a, if we need to redirect, it's going to need to be as soon as we come across something.
Okay. It's gonna be about the same. Look. I've been having that dream nonstop ever since this was a possibility. Especially with the dreamy dark and all of that jazz. So quite frankly, I don't even know what all was done or wasn't done. What was done before me? What was done after me? I know I'm not the first, and I know I'm not the last. All I do know is that my people were making people, or they were certainly trying. And that's while it's not the same, it is the same. Making people for good, making people for evil. I'm trying to remember their name. The one that taught me quarry because they thought it was successful.
Do you remember where they had you when they were doing all of that to you? Were you at your family's estate?
No,
Do you remember where you were?
vaguely. I remember echoes. I remember cold. Being very, very cold. But no,
Okay. I am assuming, perhaps incorrectly, but I am assuming that you would not be terribly upset if something happened to your family.
absolutely not. Been spying on them for years.
Fair. Thank you for talking to me. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What they did to you was wrong. And that's not okay, and nothing is going to make it okay. And I don't want that to be what happens to Zaya. It doesn't mean that that is what's going to happen to her. But if that's
No, but
what
can
they
you
intend,
understand why I can't watch someone choose that? Voluntarily choose this?
but you don't know that that's what she's choosing.
You can't know that it's not.
It's true. I can't predict what's going to happen. We could go through all of this and it may not even work. Hell, I'm a candidate. We could go through this and I could die. I don't know. I have no idea what could happen. But I'm only saying this because he is not in the room. Gavin was right. We need more information, and I'm glad that we're taking the time to get it. That's the right choice.
Somewhere else on the ship you hear, I heard that!
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, I'm just kidding.
And if it turns out that that is what this is, then I'm with you. Regardless, what was done to you was wrong. And oh god, I'm gonna have to. All right. Thank you. I'm gonna go make a deal with the devil.
That's probably not a good idea.
Oh, it's definitely not a good idea, but I'm gonna do it anyway. She'll just kind of like pat Ember on the shoulder, walk up to walk off the ship, and use the wand of sending to send a message to Jasper.
Okay.
Rhiannon here. Need information on House Vidalis attempting to insert Corey spirit into people? Not entirely sure. Check history of Ember Vidalis.
Got 3 left if you want to.
Oh, you fit.
You poop it. Sorry, no.
Oh, you favor.
So here's kind of an interesting.
I will point out Rhiannon has met him.
Yes.
Okay.
So here's an interesting thing. For the first, and I'm going to try to do this justice.
Mm-hmm.
You hear in a very feminine, womanly voice, well, that was unexpected. And then after a moment, I was like, well, I'm glad to see that you are doing okay. I'm curious and will look into it. That is all.
Huh. That was odd. Does Jasper shapeshift? That would make him a really good agent. If he could just. Huh. I have so many questions.
Questions that will most likely never be answered because
Probably.
it's Jasper. But when you're spying, who knows what the hell he's doing? Like, and that's the beautiful part of it is it's happening somewhere else, so I don't even have to explain.
That is true. Other than that, Rhiannon will help with alongside Gavin with the research stuff. We'll probably try to train some more with Callan. And we'll work on Barca's sash.
Okay. So you've got plenty to keep you busy.
Oh yeah. Very, very busy.
That is fair. Ember, Amaya, is there anything you'd like to do during this kind of initial period of downtime?
Yes. And hopefully my headset is now charging and it won't die. I am actually going to be sending out sending myself to my wife first. I'm gonna use my necklace to my wife.
Sure.
Oh shit. Hang on. I have words.
Anything that happens there other than offer my help and support for those that live there that need to leave. But I do live in Minnesota, and part of the reason why Minnesota is the way it
Hey,
is
babe.
now is because myself and people like me have been fighting
Sister,
tooth
check
and nail
in.
for decades. And if the feds make it impossible
I
for us
need to
keep
know
what we fought so hard for, we'll secede and become Canadians. Like half the world thinks we're
what she's been doing.
I mean,
Or if my family is talking. That's it.
Okay. You hear back. Hey, sexy. Grigori's got sister on short leash. Things are going well at the rabbit hole.
here's a weird D&D shower question. How do you
Oh, by the way, that's the bar now.
Yeah, sure. Make note, but we now have a bar.
Yep, in New Throne there is a bar
New Throne bar called Rabbit Hole.
called the Rabbit Hole. And realistically, this, I mean, I know I'm sort of counting words, but realistically, this could be over several days of sending back and forth, so I'm not going to necessarily worry horribly about the limit of words, even though we have been counting words, but
Yeah.
I realize that's goofy. After I did it, of course. She lets you know that basically that she has pretty much told Grigori to report in on your sister to her.
That's my girl.
And knowing your wife, Grigori finds it easier to report in to Kira than it is to incur her wrath. In that regard. But otherwise, as far as the flaming rabbits themselves, the reconstruction and everything is going well. As far as New Throne, they've effectively purchased a bar. Coop is fixing everything, which is admittedly, Coop was always kind of a busybody when it came to with different projects and whatnot. So like it's kind of Coop's heyday to kind of rebuild the bar and make it just right. And Tosh is pretty much just enjoying being the sort of the face man of the bar.
Fair.
As far as that goes.
Probably gonna be blowing all my sendings. That's fine. I have days.
Right.
But I also want to ask if they've heard or seen anything with the war. What's the news that they have?
Okay.
Or the highlight,
So admittedly for right now, out of character, I'm going to be very vague on that.
Fair.
Partially because I have to take a look at a time frame of certain things, and there are some events that there's a loose timeline of some events that may be taking place here or there, but there are also other reasons why I'm not going to get super specific. However, for those of you who are watching us who have jumping in at this point, so this particular campaign is set about 20 years in the future of what the normal Eberron timeline would be, and in general, a new war has started to form. For the moment, primarily with Thrain being the sort of primary agitator. However, lots of being that Eberron has just started to come off of the first war and has really only had a couple of decades of downtime in their sort of Cold War, post-war state. There's still plenty of hurt feelings and not fully mended wounds and old scores that are just waiting for the flame to light the gasoline and let it all start come flowing out again. So while Thrain, again, is at least at the moment sort of this primary agitator as far as what started this war, suffice it to say there's plenty of excuses to like, oh, my platoon just happened to go over here where this guy who I know is a frickin' war criminal compared to our kind 20 years ago murdered my men, that I might just happen to go and have them accidentally fall down a mine shaft or whatever. So it's there are definitely elements that are trying to, as best they can, keep it contained, but admittedly in the past, I think it was, I want to say, crap, where that fight, Storm Reach, blah blah blah. So the theft of the airships happened probably about maybe about a month ago. So as far as the most current thing, in that there was a daring and crazily well organized raid in pretty much across Corvair, and many of the Lazar principalities, princes, stole a massive amount of airships, causing a huge disruption in life and transport and trade in general, just adding to the chaos and causing more unrest and whatnot. And then of course the other part of that is that House Tarkanan has started to adopt those of other dragon marked houses who are upset with how the war is going, because when Thrain kind of initiated everything and it kicked off, it was because Thrain kicked out all of the dragon marked houses that were of human descent and murdered all of the dragon marked house members in their country that were of non-human descent, and thus really kind of catapulted the argument with the dragon marked houses of whether or not they were going to stay neutral as they have been in the past or do something about it. And so those that did not want to stay neutral have started to sort of secede from the other dragon marked houses and join House Tarkanan, which increases their numbers tenfold, I would imagine, but potentially. But in addition to that, is starting to give House Tarkanan some legitimacy and giving a voice for these disaffected dragon marked youth to join the fight and join the war and take on Thrain and get some payback. So to say it's kind of a chaotic world, like Gavin was saying, it's on fire right now. That's very true, in a geopolitical sense. So that is happening. But as far as more specific things, honestly, they do say that other than some basic things, they find that being that you guys took out Dracoskull and kind of actually helped stabilize the region a little bit, that much like its original inception of Kabara, like some of these towns have actually started to become sort of a safe haven of sorts for those that have maybe been displaced by the war, becoming refugees a little bit. And so while the rest of Corvair, at least from what it appears, seems to be kind of going up in geopolitical flames, New Throne is actually growing a little bit just with these displaced immigrants, for lack of a better term, that are or refugees, probably is a much better term, trying to find some sort of succor, so to speak, anywhere they can, which also helps a little bit. So you do get the sense too from what Kira has mentioned that because of those elders that were injured or killed with the fight with Dracoskull and whatnot, that the Flaming Rabbits have become not the elders of the town, but definitely as well respected members of the town. And admittedly, when Kira's not rocking out, she's helping a little bit on the side with healing and stuff when people need help, since she does have the mark of healing.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay.
And then Amaya, is there anything else?
Not really particularly on Amaya's end.
Okay.
It's just probably doing a lot of her usual martial arts katas and meditating and being around if people need to talk to somebody.
That's fair. That's fair. So I'd say probably the day before our 11th day, the 10th day as it were, I'd say Gavin and Rhiannon, you noticed that Adanashti, to a big extent, is kind of running around like a chicken with their head cut off a little bit, is very nervous Nelly, trying to make sure everything is cleaned up, everything it looks great and is whatever. You get a sense that because the first potential candidate and one of the first elders is going to be arriving tomorrow, and you get that they went from like I am a wizened sage and seer and potentially prophet to, oh my god, I gotta make everything look perfect for this thing, or it's just gonna be, kind of like I gotta show them that I keep my house neat, kind of deal. But you get and I would say for especially for Rhiannon and Gavin, since you've been kind of sitting in on these and helping with these plans and discussions, you do realize that this particular elder, in many ways, might be like Adanashti's mentor. I will say too, it's kind of interesting too, in the psychic link that you have and the discussions that you have, it is interesting to note that all of these different elders sort of seem to have their own sort of focus or personality to some, well, focus and personality, but you do find that with like Adanashti, while they may not necessarily be the most knowledgeable of the psionic arts, that they are recognized though as being a fairly powerful seer in some respects, and is well, and being a mentor for many is very comes from very how shall we say, therapy kind of therapist sort of attitude or demeanor. Not that that's really a demeanor, but like very empathic in that regards. Some of them do tend to be a little bit on the grumpier side of things. You do know that this elder, and I'm actually going to make up a name because that should be a thing that I do. Let's see here. And of course, now I need to remember what we'll say his name is Tharashti. So he actually does have a somewhat of a bond to Adanashti in that regards, and that they have a link to the same Kori spirit, much like Narashi. And we'll say he's definitely one of the grumpier ones, but you get the sense too that Tharashti is a bit more of a typically deals with running one of the more well-known kind of border fortresses or bastions that is closest to, I would say, the inspired and the dreaming dark, and so tends to be well, maybe not necessarily grumpy would be the right way, but very very matter of fact, very practical. Some would even say pessimistic, if one were to look at their dour face as they talk. But very much more of a logistics side of things, looks at things way more logistically and not so much in an empathic sense, we'll put it that way. In fact, in some ways, you almost wonder if maybe as you see more and more, learn more and more Adanashti's demeanor, that Adanashti was like, yep, you taught me, and now I'm going completely 180 on you, and I'm going to do things this way. You showed me that way, and I appreciate the wisdom you've shown me, but I'm going that way. So it's interesting, a little bit unique in that sense, but you know that, and so you know some of this is a little bit of the got to make things look good for my elder. Got to make sure they're, they show I'm on top of things, that kind of thing. So you get that kind of weird. It's it's a little weird just because Adanashti has typically been relatively mellow with conversations, other than being impassioned for things they're impassioned for, but like not necessarily coming off as antagonistic necessarily, but definitely get the sense that they're a little bit more leaning a little more towards Thrashti's side of being a little bit more barking orders a little bit, but
One other thing that I would like to do before our last day, uh, before the beginning of the storm, um, I want to send a message to Cian, my handler.
okay.
Do I have to come up with an exact word count since I have 11 days?
No.
Okay. The gist of the message or messages would be essentially asking if he told house leadership about my Sybaris mark. And if he hasn't, asking him to tell them. And that I require a meeting at their earliest convenience the next time that I am on Corvair. That's it.
And Cial's probably first response is like, "Oh, you must be sailing on an ocean to have such salty words." While
I'm a
I
little under pressure right now.
well, and while I how do I phrase this? While I have not necessarily brought forth the fact that you have your dragon mark has expanded in its lovely capabilities. At the same point, we are a dragon marked house full of those that are very observant in nature, and while I love neither confirming nor denying to those that are asking me for specifics, word has definitely gotten out within the house that you have a dragon mark. And I have been deflecting certain leadership's questions in regards to what that means for you, for your request. But eventually they would like to also sit down with you and have a discussion. And they sternly but politely ask that that be soon, although I told them that you would pencil them in as best you could when you had the chance.
Well, they're welcome to come to Adar if they want a meeting that soon.
And probably the whole response to that is, "You're in Adar. Did not see that one coming."
I can neither confirm nor deny, Cian. Salty words, my ass. Yes, I am in Adar. If they need to speak with me that urgently, they can come here. Otherwise, I will connect with them if and when I am back in Corvair.
No worries, dear. Safe travels.
Question: how is our house doing with the losses in Thrain and then losing additional people to Tarkanan?
We have always been a house of critical thinkers, observers, clever ones that think outside the box. And our abilities are best used in more civilized society than trudging on a battlefield. That being said, Tarkanan has recruited several members. And you hear this in heavy air quotation marks. While I cannot confirm nor deny, there may be several members even higher up in the chain of command that may be offering some subtle support here and there to individuals that have decided to break away. But as normal,
You can
House
neither confirm
Madani
nor
is the
deny.
glue that keeps the
Oh.
dragon-marked houses together. And,
Of course we are.
and then you hear a little laughter, and it's like, sorry, I can't even say that with a straight face. Like, you could almost see him. You can almost see him sitting at his desk with his feet up as he's holding a little snifter of brandy. It's like going on about, like you could.
Right.
Right.
Honor and service and blah
Right.
blah. And where do you fall? Truly.
I want to save as many of our people as we can.
As do I. And I think our best chance to do that is by allying with House Tarkanan. Kindly keep that to yourself.
I don't necessarily disagree. But I know that you know what a steep slope that that may be in terms of in terms of the politics of the houses.
True. But as we are, of course, the glue that keeps the dragon-marked houses together, perhaps we can persuade others.
Perhaps.
It's better if all of the houses stand together, and that includes Tarkanan.
Well, as long as you're the glue and not the horse.
Nay.
Take care of yourself.
I always do. Let me know if the leaders want to visit me here. That's all.
Okay. So that being said, that unless there's anything else anyone wants to do, then we'll move on to the arrival of the first candidate. Admittedly, much like many of the days have been here, on the chillier side, high up in the mountains, plenty of breezes, even some snow here and there from time to time. Some that sticks, some that doesn't. And honestly, you're starting to, I guess, get somewhat familiar with the routines of the monastery. And it is, it is interesting overall just to kind of see, experience, being amongst you've dealt with the Kalashtar bit here and there in your trainings and your visitations with some of the enclaves in Corvair, but kind of being here in the mountains of Adar, kind of fully exposed to it, it's just interesting to take in the characteristics, take in the different characteristics of that culture. And admittedly, as fascinating as some of these facets can be, the Kalashtar are also extremely interested in learning more about all of you as well. That being said, everybody's kind of the day of, they're doing kind of like last minute preparations and some could argue busy work in some fashion, but you notice that the overall amount of Kalashtar that are sort of congregating in the open square area tends to be a lot more. Less of them tend to be doing their training and more like a little like light sparring, as that you kind of get the sense that they're all kind of curious who this first potential candidate, I mean, not actually the first candidate, obviously you're there, but you see, and funny enough, you see Adanashti actually come. I was like, I've just gotten a message. They will be arriving in just a few moments. Everybody, please, if you can just spread out to open up the square a little bit. They'll need a little space when they arrive.
You have no idea how much the Chaos Gremlin in me wants to fuck around and find out, but I don't.
And you, for a second, as you so you see the Kalashtar do kind of move back, but they're all still kind of waiting.
I do want to ask before you narrate the last bit of this, is it just me and Rhiannon there, or is the rest of the party there too?
Whoever wants to be there.
Okay. So I will leave that to Amaya.
Would Amaya be there with Zion? With Zaya? I don't know why I said Zion. Because you said Rhiannon.
I would say yeah, unless Zaya would definitely be curious.
Yeah, and if Zaya is there, Amaya would be there.
Yep. Okay. Is Ember there?
Stone-faced and in the back, but yes.
Okay. And as everybody's kind of sitting there waiting, the winds, for a moment, the howl of the wind seems to pick up a little bit. And in fact, they even seem to be definitely picking up in speed. Like you even feel it, like, whoa, something's going on a little bit. But and is admittedly a little as curiosity as to why the answer becomes prevalent in short order as a dragon crests the edge the um, of the cliff face, kind of below where the monastery is, and then comes and sets down in the kind of the middle of the square. You do see kind of sitting sort of haphazardly upon their neck. You do see an individual whom you, especially for Rhiannon and Gavin, recognize just through the mind link and whatnot, and the imagery of this Thrashti wearing some kind of crisp cut sort of robes that, while don't necessarily have a lot of uh, gaudy accoutrement, definitely it looks made out of very fine silk robes and has patterns and whatnot. And you see this dragon. So you guys have fought and killed a green dragon before, and you know what they look like. And this dragon's scales are green in color, but while the dragon you fought of Dracoskull's general of Dracoskull's army had more of a kind of I wouldn't say, kind of almost like muted or almost like a foresty green, darker green tones. This dragon scales are almost iridescent, very kind of shimmering in nature. And what seems to be even kind of more interesting is the fact that in some cases it almost looks like someone took a picture of a dragon and then almost like erased certain parts, because you see where the dragons like would have a crest of horns, or like its kind of forehead would crest and then curve up into two horns. You see like it kind of stops at like nubs, for lack of a better term, and there's someone erased the middle, and then there's these floating crystalline horns that kind of float where you would think they would connect, and they move around as if they were connected. And you see, sure enough, even some of the larger spines on the back of this dragon are not attached per se, but do float maybe a couple of inches, although they look like they are planted, so to speak. And you realize with this whole kind of combination that this is not, well, it's not any style of dragon you've ever seen before, for sure. But those of you who have some knowledge in Arcana, you can feel free to go ahead and make a Arcana roll if you'd like.
Oh.
22.
Nat 2 for a total of 9.
19.
Sorry, what'd you get, Gavin?
19.
Okay. I'm gonna say Ember. You're the only one that I mean, obviously you guys know it's a dragon, like not a big surprise.
Yeah.
You got that figured out. But you recognize this dragon as being for lack of a better term, one of what would be referred to as like the third hosts. So there are the, what is commonly known as the metallic dragons, which you've met one, the chromatic dragons, which you've killed several, but there is a third type or flight or horde, whatever you want to call them, not very well known, because there's not really any of them that live in Corvair, and it could be argued even in maybe not even in Zendrick. But there is a third host of dragons that are referred to as allotted by gems or precious stones in their sort of terminology. And you realize that this, man, I'm hiccuping, I'm sorry, that this is an emerald dragon.
Ooh.
And
Giant.
this much you do know because you guys have faced several dragons in the past. This dragon would definitely be considered of an age category comparative to Coglin or Dracoskull, or Ashak, where you have no doubt this dragon is an ancient emerald dragon.
Do I know the alignment?
Most of so in general for the gem dragons is what I'll kind of refer to them as overarching. They tend to lean a bit more towards the neutral side of things, or one could maybe argue maybe even a little bit more towards the lawful side of things. That being said, I mean, as you know, as far as in Eberron, there are plenty of variations, and and especially with Eberron, for those that are not used to the Eberron setting, Eberron pretty much makes it assuredly that you could have a good red dragon or an evil gold dragon or whatever. Like they don't.
Oh, that's fair.
Unlike regular D&D, they don't necessarily. They don't
have to follow a.
Yeah.
They tend to follow the sort of standard alignments you would normally perceive with that type of critter than say in other D&D fantasy. We'll leave it at that.
But admittedly, they've gotten away from that a lot in 5e.
Well, and the whole goals and stuff thing, it kind of helps with that too. So and you see Adanashti approaches and greets Thirashti, and proceeds to kind of lead him over to the rest of you, as I'm assuming the majority of you are probably standing, we'll say, relatively near where Zaya is. And you see Adanashti smiles, and which Rhiannon, you get the sense is a little forced, but putting on a good face is like,
yeah.
And it's like, and I would like to introduce you to, and proceeds to kind of go down the line and point everybody out. And this is Zaya. Or, I suppose more formally, Berezaya Argia.
I watch him very carefully.
You...
And is the candidate with him?
All you saw was the dragon.
Okay.
Who is just kind of sitting there. The wings kind of come in. They're just kind of sitting there, kind of sitting on their back haunches. You see their tail kind of curls up around them. Very, what you would think of as a very draconic sitting pose, like, and does seem to be just kind of scanning the crowds. I mean, I'd let you go ahead and make an insight roll. You've dealt with enough dragons that it's not completely alien to you at this point.
Yes.
Not even worth.
And this is for
rolling.
really any of you that want to.
Insight is such a shit. Oh, that's a good roll. Oh, 17.
26 insight for Amaya.
Yeah. This is why I don't bother.
26 for Rhiannon as well.
I rolled a 19. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I rolled a 16 and I was like, oh, yay.
So the dragon doesn't. So the dragon appears to be unperturbed. For those of you that rolled, we'll say lower than a 20, and just kind of seems to be scanning the crowd a little bit. And of course, in terms of like the Clash Star kids, whenever the dragon looks their way, they're ducking behind skirts and legs, and but then still super curious because I mean, it's a freaking dragon.
Yeah.
I'm sure I would probably get burned alive going, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen before I get eaten or destroyed, but that's me. However, I would say for Amaya and Rhiannon, you see that the dragon, while kind of scanning the crowd and doing that sort of that general sense of getting the layout of the people and the land, or sort of you get the sense, while they're very, no pun intended, stone-faced, they do tend to get a little bit of amusement, not in a vicious or evil or mocking sense, but just an amusement at the little eek of some of the children as they hide. Just kind of enjoying that sort of surprise, that sort of eek of surprise and discovery that children have. And while not giving a whole lot away, you do get kind of the sense that is kind of enjoying it mirthfully as far as the children's reactions. And you see Thrashti's like, well then, my apologies. This is my good friend and companion, Berezaya, and kind of gestures towards the dragon.
I give a small bow in the dragon's direction, just sort of a, respectful acknowledgement. What was its name again? Their
Hold
name?
on.
Their name?
Hold on. Quit typing.
Sorry.
For just a sec. Because of course when I create it...
Excellent, thank you.
Of course, when I wrote it out this morning and I sounded, it was like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense and doesn't trip up my tongue whatsoever. And I now know, as I said the name, I lied.
It makes sense, Verdialanthus.
And so you see the dragon just kind of like start to kind of duck down a little bit to bring their head closer towards your party.
This is an out-of-character question, because I don't know if I missed the context or my brain is just not functioning. The dragon is the candidate?
We don't know yet.
It is unclear.
It seems to be the implication.
Yeah.
You know what? And you know what? Hold on. Then I think Gavin's just like, wait. The dragon's the candidate?
Oh, that's interesting.
And you see the dragon. At first, it starts off almost as a little bit of a growl, but then you see it kind of opens up into more of a laughter. No. And actually, you all hear in your head, no, with kind of that same sort of rumbling. And you see the dragon lifts up, and then you see reaches out with one of its forepaws, and you hear this sort of click of stone on stone. And as you see the dragon raises their paw, you see this crystalline egg, slightly larger than the size of a beach ball. So it would probably go up to like your mid thigh for those that are normal human-y sized.
Oh.
That's even more interesting.
Wait.
In all of the research that we've been doing over the course of the last 11 days, considering that, like, Tharashti was involved and all of that stuff, was at any point any kind of discussion involving, like, candidates could be other species other than, like, specifically Kalashtar or, like, anything like that? Like, because we
Something other than humanoid?
Yeah, something other than humanoid or, like, anything to that end?
Well, I mean, so here's the thing. So the Kalashtar, at least as you know them in their current form or value, were humans that bonded with the quarry spirit, and then, yes, you tell them, River. And then they started to have progeny and children and descendants, that the quarry spirit sort of spread out kind of among them, so to speak, in that kind of dual soul thing that we know about. I mean, when the Clash Star first happened, they happened by accident because they were just like, we agreed to bond with you to give you a safe haven because this is the only way you're going to survive that we know of. We didn't even know as we made this agreement that, when we start having kids that you'll kind of disseminate in them as well. Like, we didn't know. That was kind of just like, hey, dumb luck. Woo! So in that sense, and I mean, granted, even though you maybe didn't think of it, I mean, at the same point in time, technically,
There's nothing that says that they can't be of other species.
Right, because I mean, Zaya's a ship.
Yeah.
So,
I think all of that, like, visibly plays across Gavin's face. He doesn't say anything, but, like, that whole line of thinking just plays across Gavin's face like a fucking movie.
Yeah, like, everyone who looks at Gavin just sees all this math going off.
Yeah, exactly. Very beautiful mind moment here. Oh. Well, hi, welcome, and interesting. I presume he's looking up at the dragon at this point. I presume this one is yours.
Yes.
You seem to have some mind-to-mind capabilities like many of the Kalashtar. Is that something that carries over when your species is still in egg form?
To some extent, yes. My progeny will be hatching soon.
Pardon me for a silly question, perhaps, but as your kind are extraordinarily long-lived, can you define what soon means? Is soon 30 minutes from now? Is soon 30 years from now?
Perhaps Well, within the year for certain, perhaps within the month. Although I will, and you see the dragon kind of scoops up, again, very surprisingly gentle for this massive creature, but also for the like, and I will have to layer soon to continue their development. And then proceeds to look around a little bit, and you see Thrashti is like, the temple is over there. He's like, very well, and like, which, while people are like, most people are kind of surprised. You see, there's a little tension with Adanashti, in that regards. Now, granted, the entrance to the temple is big enough the dragon can get through without breaking anything. Although you're kind of surprised they don't just by accident. But you can, but it's you get a sense like they definitely have a solid body sense and know exactly where every little bit kind of goes. Like they're very cognizant of the fact. And sure enough, they kind of go off to the side of the temple and kind of curl up the way a critter does with the egg kind of in the middle.
While the dragon is moving off, I think Gavin grabs hold of the Zaya token and just thinks at Zaya, like looking at Zaya, just thinks in her direction. He's like, nuanced conversation aside, how fucking cool would it be to be a dragon?
Rhiannon suddenly feels an overwhelming sense of inadequacy.
Like yeah, Zaya's pretty much like is just kind of in awe and kind of trying to string words together and failing. And of course with with the sort of mind link connection, you get like a 404 error is like her brain
Blue screen, just
yeah.
So Thrashti has been involved in the discussions over the last 11 days.
Yes.
And I've gotten
so
kind of a sense that he's a bit of a grumpus.
Oh, very much so.
Hey, Thoroughly, how's it going? It's a pleasure to actually meet you face to face. I offer my hand.
And you see no smile, no change in expression, just kind of looks at you, looks at your hand, offers their hand, or shakes your hand, but they're still kind of looking at you like they're just kind of sizing you up.
Gavin Pendergast, we spoke in each other's minds. I mean, I think we have questions. Kind of looks back at the group.
Of course.
Rhiannon will step forward and welcome. I trust your journey was safe and relatively comfortable.
And you see, so like you get the sort of not necessarily hostility towards Gavin, but definitely a little bit of the cold shoulder thing. But you do see is when he turns and looks at you, and kind of still sort of takes you in with that whole I'm kind of judging the whole thing, but then seems to warm up and brighten up a little bit.
Oh, she stares right back at him and is sizing him right up.
That's fair, but you see he does actually warm up a little bit and goes, "Oh, priestess, yes, I am." Sorry, Brian totally forgot the question that you were saying. What was the question?
Oh, I just like small talk. Inquired about his journey.
Okay. You get the sense that he is he's a bit warmer to you because you have with you the accoutrement that shows you as a cleric of Ilyana, which
yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, definitely earning you brownie points in his facet. But otherwise, yeah, he's, you know, he makes the small talk like
Hmm.
he's
Yeah, and she'll introduce herself as well. Rhiannon Dimadani. We also have spoken each other's minds.
indeed. Well then, let us proceed to go and
Talk.
learn more about things and yada yada yada. So, unless you have more time, um, I would like someone to roll a percentage roll.
I'll do it.
Gaily.
So
Do
I
it
can-
gaily.
Do it gaily! We're doing it gaily! That is a 47. Because I
Okay.
can read percentile dice.
Okay, so I'd say as the time progresses, um, the so for the next, I'd say few days, every say 3 or 4 days or so, another candidate potentially arrives. They are all typically humans or humanoid folk. The dragon being the only outlier. Um, and so I'd say for probably like the next, oh, I'd even go so far as to say 20 days.
This be another 20 days of downtime.
Indeed, it is.
And you said all of them were human or humanoid?
I'm going to say humanoid. There are,
Okay.
primarily they are humans. You do see, one of the candidates is this small sort of humanoid form, but they have maybe about the size of what you would compare to like a halfling or a gnome in terms of size. But what makes it kind of interesting is while they appear to be relatively kind of your normal flesh tones or maybe a slightly yellowish tint to their skin, not quite reminiscent of being jaundiced or whatnot, but you see what sets them out is they have a pair of what looks to be kind of insectile antenna coming off of their foreheads that sticks out maybe like 2 or 3 inches. But what kind of sticks out even more is that their eyes are very multifaceted, much like an insect's eyes, like a dragonfly or whatnot. At least if I'm describing this correctly, I think I am. And you find that they are a race that is somewhat native to Sarlona, but not often that you come across, referred to as a Zeph, Xeph.
And there was just one Zeph?
Correct. And then one other candidate that appears to be, well, 2 other so we're gonna say there's like 4 or 5 human candidates, and then there's the as far as the non-human candidates, you have the dragon, there is a Zeph, there is a oh, what's the term? What would be kind of referred to as like a half ogre. In this neck of the woods, they're actually referred to as, I have notes. In this area of the world, they're actually kind of referred to as Oh, come on, Brian. They have names. I know the names. Arg. Crap. I forgot the terminology for the half ogres. I'll have to look that up. There are some, but you see this one half ogre looking person, so standing easily 7 to 8 feet tall. In terms of just overall girth and body mass, potentially would give Barca a run for his money. As far as actual strength, who knows? Although could probably give Barca a decent challenge. Not to saying that Barca couldn't headbutt him into obscurity like the Minotaur that he did back in New Throne, but definitely a big person. And they actually have a couple of other, if the term could be used correctly, slightly smaller half giants, which you guys recognize are very much like a kind of Goliath-y stock. That was kind of escorting this half ogre. Yes, Eneko. That was the name of the half ogres. Eneko, Eneko, is their name as far as their racial name as far as what they're referred to in Sarlona. And then the last person that was one of the candidates is from the far north of Sarlona. You are introduced to a shifter. Clad in a lot of different furs and skins and whatnot. Although funny enough, while their feet are kind of wrapped, but like their toes are actually exposed, and you get a sense from the kind of the claws on the toe, like their toenails don't look like regular toenails. They look much more reminiscent of like a dog's claw or a cat's claw, however you want to look at it. And even their face, when you see them, has looks like they have a very soft, thin layer of kind of a very like you'd almost think it would be like felt or velvet or something along that lines. There's like a very fine fur on their face and slightly, I'd say, while human in general shares some very canid aspects in terms of slightly large incisors and the fur, and they do have kind of slightly pointed ears. Which you do notice tends to, like their ear actually almost tends to move a little bit like a dog's ear when they're listening, like a radar dish, so to speak, as the ears kind of move almost a little independently towards different sounds.
I finished Barca's sash. Yep.
Excellent.
It's not even here.
I will have to double check, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Nikali finished the cloak. Somewhere during that time. So yes, there is a counting the the dragon egg and the slew of candidates, we'll say there's probably a total of 10 candidates. Not counting yourself, Rhiannon. I would say during any of this downtime, Rhiannon, are you still finding time to you and or Gavin finding time to
Yes.
keep up relations with the Clashtar people via Callan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's very,
yes.
very important diplomatic relations. And I would is Callan being considered as a candidate?
Well, he actually does broach the subject with you.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, and you know he tends to you could stop anyway if you wanted to, but
I need to know what Callan says.
No.
Fuck, I don't know what happened. My internet is perfectly strong.
Then we can stop.
so I don't know how much of that
It just ended.
It
I had it up and
yeah.
it just ended.
okay,
Same.
so we're still kind of where okay. But yeah, Callan does actually ask.
Ask me?
Well, ask you or ask the two of you after certain things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But,
after diplomatic relations.
I'm I don't know, do you think I'd be a good fit for the kid?
What do you think?
You know her better than I.
You know yourself better than I.
Okay. In the interests of whatever, our opinions on that are pretty much immaterial. It's going to be between you and her, but yeah, my personal opinion is I think you would be a good candidate and you would be a good match with her.
You're a good person, Callan, and if I myself cannot protect her, then I think you would be an excellent choice. She just kind of pats his butt.
Yeah, sorry. You're right. It's her choice. Figured out. I would be open to talk to Adanashi. Sorry, the I don't know. Maybe it's all this sex has got me to be emotional, and all of a sudden I'm looking for fighting off the self-pity demon there. So
if anybody gets insecurity, it's this guy. And I get it, but dude, you're fucking awesome. So if it's something that you want to try to do it.
Sure.
What he said. You've got this. No self-pitying needed.
I think at this point he looks. I think because we've determined that Callan is straight, and so I feel like for his comfort, it's me, Rhiannon in the middle, and then Callan on the other
I'm
side.
totally like.
It's a Rhiannon sandwich.
There's some Eiffel Towering, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think at this point, Gavin looks kind of down at Rhiannon, and he's like, "See, I'm phrasing things very directly now."
I know, I'm so proud of you. Look at how much you're growing.
That's it. He was just looking for a little bit of validation.
uh, and Rhiannon will just kind of wrap her fingers in the hair of each of the menfolk and kiss each one of them, and just like, you guys are so cute.
And that's probably a good spot to leave it then, I'm thinking. Unless anyone else has anything they want to perhaps say before or do. Otherwise, I will.
Nope.
All right. Well, cool. Well, like I said, we'll leave it there for now. And next session, potentially next session, it's either going to be diving into a bit of the Barca's or the Fast and the Furious or Furriest Barca's Bastards, or we might have one more session before that goes. We'll have to I'll touch base with Barca to find out for sure. But
So
we'll be
next,
back in
we'll
2
be
weeks.
back in a couple of weeks. Just for the record, for anybody who's still with us, I know that weird little blip caused us to lose a bunch of folk, but we are going to do our best to stick to a regular schedule. But as I have learned over the course of the last 3 years, our lives are fucking crazy. So when I know that we're going to have a session, especially as summer approaches, when I know that we're going to have a session, I will post it in all the various socials and everything like that. We will try to keep to the schedule to the best of our ability. We just ask that you bear with us, as we are still, fully grown adults with full lives and everything like that. Just to very, very quickly, go check out Seven Tail Fox. That is Kit's stream playing Amaya. Tail is spelled Tale, as he is wont to say, because that is what they like to tell. It is very fun.
To collect.
Collect, sorry. It is very fun. They have a good time. I know he's working on nailing down his schedule as well, but again, because we're all full ass adults with full ass lives. And then also go check out our very good friend Nick at Epic Realms, Epic_Realms. He does a lot of really cool shit. Do I need to plug anything else? He said pointedly to the rest of you. Okay.
Nope.
Thank you all. You are lovely human beings. Stay tuned to the channel. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming out. Again, go check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@theblindgm, the little @ symbol. And we will see you hopefully in a couple of weeks. Bye, friends.
Bye. To all the folks within the sound of my voice, let's address the pear-shaped ampersand in the room. The situation with the OGL 1.0A has many of us feeling some kind of way. I have been an outspoken proponent of the outcry against any significant changes, and I remain so now. After some intense discussions with fellow D&D players, including the close circle of friends I frequently game with, it has become evident that in terms of universal accessibility, D&D Beyond is the best resource available to us at this time. Accessibility is incredibly important, not just to me, but also to incalculable numbers of tabletop role players across the globe. As such, we will be continuing to use the D&D 5e rules as a vehicle to convey the story that we are telling. This is not support, implicit or explicit,